help literally millions of people every year in countries around the world, as well as a very active domestic program here in the U.S. It is absolutely mind-boggling. Even knowing what we're doing all over the place, I still can't get my arms around the breadth of it all. We're the best kept secret in America, and we're the greatest story never told. Sadly, not too many people are aware of Operation Blessing. There's 5 major activities that Operation Blessing is involved in: hunger relief, clean water, medicine and medical outreach, disaster relief, which is an amalgam of the first 3, and then a whole myriad of programs for children at risk. We work in many countries, 15 countries on a regular daily basis. We're also going to the scene of major worldwide disasters. We're very active in Sudan right now. We just reacted to the floods in Mozambique. There are famines in Africa that we're reacting to, earthquakes, lava flows in the Philippines. Wherever there's a disaster, Operation Blessing is going to show up and work with local government authorities in a synergistic manner. In Darfur, Operation Blessing, along with our German partners Humedica, are operating 3 clinics and 3 refugee or IDP, internally displaced person camps, with a population of over 100,000. We've got midwife service. We're helping deliver babies 24/7. We've got a clinic that's open 6 days a week at all 3 of those camps. We've got 2 schools where 2,500 kids are in attendance 6 days a week. In Indonesia, since the tsunami hit, we've operated up to 22 clinics at one time. We had helicopters and float planes in the air every day, bringing in supplies. We rented and leased barges and tugboats to bring building materials up the coast. We built warehouses. We're building clinics. We've built hundreds of homes. We have built countless numbers of boats and empowered fishing families. We've provided funding for micro-enterprise. We've built 2 brick factories that now are producing over 200,000 bricks a month. We're still doing that over 2 years after the fact, and we'll be doing it for at least another year. I'm going home. In the U.S., our major activity is hunger relief. Most people don't know that there are hungry people in America. There are actually millions of hungry people in America, and a lot of them are not the chronically poor. They're people that are middle-class people. I'm going home. My baby's just We deliver an average of 55 truckloads a week to the poor people of America, and they're not just all in the inner cities. They're in Appalachia, they're in middle-class communities in the Carolinas where furniture factories and textile factories have moved to China. They're in Michigan, where the automotive industry is defunct. They're in the Rust Belt in Pennsylvania. There's more hungry people in America than most people realize. There's a lot of Americans that wanted to and continue to want to do something for the victims of Katrina. Operation Blessing is able to facilitate that energy. We can provide the tools, the wheelbarrows, the safety equipment, the training, the housing. We can feed them and care for the volunteers while they're here, keep them safe, give them work orders and coordinate our efforts, and help the beleaguered people of the Gulf Coast.
Well, they've been here since before Katrina hit. You know, the care they provide here is for about 100 people a day, and they've been doing that for a good year. And these are people who would otherwise not get health care because they don't have health insurance. I think it's about as important as it gets for everyday life.
Judging from the benefit of our experience in Mississippi right after Katrina, it was a high-profile emergency. Volunteers poured in from everywhere. We had to turn people away. We had so many volunteers. Now, with Katrina running into a chronic kind of subacute disaster, the professional volunteers and the country at large has pretty much lost interest, even though, as you can see from touring this area, it's still completely devastated. And the healthcare delivery system is just barely limping along.
Operation Blessing is leading the way. They've led the way in their Katrina relief, but they're leading the way all over the world, and in part because they go in as an impartial, non-affiliated, solely humanitarian organization, only to improve the circumstances for those people. They don't go in with an agenda. They don't go in to proselytize. It's just, what can we do to make it better, and let us work with you. We're not going to come in to tell you how to do it. You tell us how you think it can be, and then we'll tell you what's reasonable, and together we'll do it.
This was a code, in effect, that was left by the search teams. This was the date, 9/15. This would have been shortly after the storm. SF would stand for probably San Francisco. The search teams had initials that identified them, and this would indicate the number of bodies that were found in this building. Mercifully, there's a lot of zeros here in St. Bernard. Not the case in New Orleans. There's a lot of numbers in this quadrant. We could have come down here to St. Bernard and we could have rebuilt 4 or 5 or 6 houses. In fact, we've done just that and greatly benefit individual families. By doing this, by renovating this gym and the soccer fields and all, we've done something to, we're a force multiplier. We're using our resources and our donors' dollars to benefit the whole community, not just a few families. When the floodwaters were here, I'm told that the water was up about 6 feet, 7 feet here, and there were people, they came by here in a boat. And the boxing coach had a can of spray paint, and he sprayed it on here. We will box again. And that was a promise he made to the people here in St. Bernard. He didn't know whether he'd ever be able to keep it, but when we heard this story, it really grabbed us. We will box again. But there's more than boxing that's going to go in inside this facility.
It's just like working with family. Everybody pulls together, everybody works together. It's heart-based. Everybody has compassion and there's great esprit de corps. Everybody works together just to get the job done. It's not about money, it's not about paycheck. We get thousands and thousands of volunteers down here. Operation Blessing is providing them a way to do what they need to do. They lodge them and feed them, and the work has come together and they're full of enthusiasm, and they want to get 2 weeks worth of work done in 1 week's worth of time, and they just come in, they go full steam, and it all comes together. It's quite rewarding. It's a lot of fun.
Our volunteers come from a cross-section of America.
When the floodwaters of Katrina came in, everything that was in the lakes and in our bayous and the ditches, whatever, wound up swimming around the streets. There's 2 primary diseases that are carried by the mosquitoes that can breed in these swimming pools. One of them is West Nile virus, and it came in, to the United States in about 2000 and spread from New York all the way to California. The other is St. Louis encephalitis, and we've had problems with encephalitis, St. Louis encephalitis. Fairly high number of cases scattered, back historically through the years. We were looking basically for help from an outside source because we knew that we couldn't do this by ourselves. And the Operation Blessing crew came in and basically said, what do you need? What's your greatest needs? And they gave it to us.
It wouldn't be the first time we've asked to help with mosquito control. In Sri Lanka and Indonesia we did, but a much more conventional way with fogging machines. Here, Steve explained that they needed fish, little gambusia. They're a guppy-like fish that reproduce like mad. They can live in a mud puddle, and they were born to eat mosquito larvae. They gobble up the mosquito larvae, and we've helped to head off an epidemic of West Nile virus and St. Louis encephalitis. The city of New Orleans, mosquito control is also responsible for rodent control. We're working with the city to plant rat bait into these storm sewers on the end of wires, and it's extremely effective. We treated thousands of city blocks now with our rat buster program. So who would have ever thought that? But who would have ever thought a disaster of the scope of Katrina would ever hit the United States, and that almost 2 years later, these people would still be suffering like the people on this street? We are trying to provide relief in real time. We don't sit around our office in Virginia Beach and talk about this stuff. We go to the scene of the crime, we go to the scene of the disaster, and start providing help.
They do what they have to do without restrictions. They help people. They deliver the goods with very little administrative or bureaucratic problems. and I think they are an outstanding charitable organization.
Right now we're about a $250 million a year organization. 5 years ago we were a $40 million a year organization. The more money that we get, the more gifts that we get, the more gifts in kind that we get, the more people we can help. I felt very strongly moved that maybe everything I'd been doing in my life had been practiced for this job at Operation Blessing. And so I really had no idea how big of a deal it was when I agreed to do it. And it's the most important thing I've ever done in my life. We don't have to blow our horn. I mean, we're not here for the show. We're here to alleviate suffering. We're here to try to bring some hope back to the hopeless.